If you are over 65 lying in a hospital bed, doesn't mean you have actually been admitted. A single word on your paperwork can legally trigger a $20,000 out of pocket bill. As a doctor, I see seniors get with this every week. You follow all the rules, hand over your insurance card, and still walk out owing tens of thousands of dollars, not because your insurance failed, because of how the hospital classified you while you were sleeping. The system is built on assumptions that you will nod and sign. Whatever clipboard they hand you at admissions. These five traps show you how that assumption gets used against you. And I am giving you the exact words to stop it. Trap 5 is where the most people get caught first. Let's start with number 5. You did your homework. You verified the hospital is in network. You verified your primary doctor is in network. You think you are safe. Here is the trap number 5, the out of network surprise. You did not check the anesthesiologist, the radiologist, or the ER physician. Hospital contracts these specialists independently to shift liability. So while the hospital itself takes your insurance, the doctor actually treating you might not. You wake up from surgery, you recover, and weeks later a massive bill arrives. Out of network for the doctor who read your x-ray or put you to sleep, often for those thousands of dollars at full retail price. It works because you were unconscious or in too much pain to ask for credential when they walked into the room. Federal law gives you a shield against this, the No Surprise Act. This law applies if you have commercial insurance or Medicare Advantage plan. If you are on traditional Medicare with supplemental Medicare plan, you already have a federal protection against balance billing. And this specific act does not apply. But if you are on a Medicare Advantage plan, you must invoke it proactively. The second you are admitted for a non emergency procedure, look right at the admission staff and say, I only consent to the treatment by in network providers under the No Surprises Act. If they say they cannot guarantee an in network specialist, demand they find one or take your procedure to the different facility. If it is a true emergency and you get billed afterward, that statement locks in your right. The provider cannot legally charge you more than your standard in network cost sharing, and they have to work out the rest with your insurance. If you have ever been hit with the bill from a doctor you don't even remember seeing, tell me in comments. Your answer might help someone else figure out what happened to them. The trap runs on a information you never had. The next one runs on a urgency, the manufacturer. Trap number 4, the early discharge, or what people inside hospitals call rehab dumping. Hospital runs on a bed turnover. Every day a bed is occupied by a patient past the acute crisis. The hospital loses potential revenue from a sicker, more billable patient. The moment your vitals stabilize, you become someone they want to move off the census. They come into your room, smile, and say, great news, you are stable. We are discharging you today. Being stable in a hospital bed is not the same as being safe to go home. If you are discharged before your medication is properly titrated, before your infection is cleared, or before your physical therapy has progressed enough to get you safely to the bedroom, you are at serious risk. You fall, you have complications, you get readmitted to the ER. And if you come back within 30 days, the hospital get penalized by Medicare, which means they have a financial reasons to make sure you don't return, even if that means sending you out a day too early. If you feel dizzy, if your pain is not controlled, or if you cannot safely get to the bathroom on your own, you have the right to an independent medical review requested by noon the day before you are scheduled to leave. Tell the attending physician, I don't feel medically ready for discharge, and I am requesting an expedited appeal through the QIO. QIO stands for Quality Improvement Organization. It is an independent board of doctors paid by Medicare to review your case. The moment you say those words, the hospital's legal department gets involved. They cannot legally discharge you until the review is complete. That buys you the extra day or two you actually need. Getting pushed out too soon is one kind of risk. What they do to your medications while you are still in that bed is a different one. Trap number three, medication changes. When you are admitted, the hospital pharmacy does not dispense your home medications. They use a formulary, a specific list of drugs they stock, chosen largely by what is cheapest under the hospital purchasing contracts. They routinely swap your carefully calibrated home medications for what generic they have on the shelf. For a healthy 30 years old, that is fine. For senior, it can cause real harm in ways the nurse handing you the cup will not mention. Geriatric pharmacology is a delicate balance. Your body has spent months or years reaching a steady state with your specific blood pressure pill, your specific thyroid dose, your specific heart medications. Many of these drugs have what we call a narrow therapeutic index, meaning even a small changes in binding agent or the release mechanism can alter how your body absorbs it. That swap can spike your blood pressure to the dangerous levels, pushing your heart into arrhythmia or trigger orthostatic hypotensions, where your blood pressure drops the moment you stand up and you go straight to the floor. Hospital saves money, you absorb the rest. Take control of your medication list on day one. When admitting, doctors sits down to write your orders. Put your actual medication bottles on the table and say, don't substitute or alter any of my maintenance medication without a clinical review and my written consent. That phrase forces the doctor to justify the change rather than defaulting to the formulary. If they cannot give you a clinical reason, they have to order your exact brand and dosage from a outside pharmacy. It is more work for them. It protects your life. Those first three traps can hurt you physically. The next two are built around a paperwork you sign while you are still in shock, walking through the door. Trap number two, admissions forms. The blanket financial responsibility form. Within minutes of walking through the doors, usually while you are in a pain or not fully thinking, a clerk hands you a clipboard. It looks standard. It asks for your insurance. Read in a fine print is a clause saying you assume all financial responsibility for service not covered by your insurance. This is where balance billing comes in. If your insurance denies a claim or pays only part of bill, that clause lets the hospital come after you for the difference. Not at the negotiated insurance rate, but at full retail. A $500 procedure becomes 5,000 bill. By signing that form, you are legally agreeing to cover the gap. You can't refuse to sign. You need treatment, but you can document that you did not agree to the balance bill. Before you sign, write this sentence next to your sign. Signing only for authorized insurance benefit, not personal financial liability for uncovered balance billing. Will the hospital say a handwritten note does not override the contract possibly, but it creates a paper trail proving you refuse to consent to those charges. When the inflated bill arrives, that photo goes to your insurance company or a patient advocate. You never agreed to those rates. That note proves it. Take a photo of the sentence and send it to anyone in your family with the procedure coming up. That trap can cost you thousands. This one has a cost people their retirement. It is most complicated loophole in the system, and most patients never see it until the bill arrives. Trap number five is observation status. You come to the ER, you are sick. They move you upstairs, put you in a hospital gown, give you an IV, and you stay for 3 or 4 days. You see doctors, you eat hospital food, you are billed for a room. Every single tells you that you are inpatient. You might not be. You might be classified as an outpatient under observation. You come to the ER, you are sick, they move you upstairs, put you in a hospital gown, give you an IV, and you stay for 3 or 4 days. You see doctors, you eat hospital foods, you are billed for a room. Every single tells you that you are inpatient. You might not be. You might be classified as an outpatient under observation. This distinction determines whether the Medicare will pay for your rehabilitation afterwards. Medicare Part A only covers a skilled nursing or rehab facility if you spend 3 consecutive midnights in the hospital as an inpatient. Observation times does not count. A patient comes in with a broken hip. He is in hospital bed for 4 days because the hospital kept him under observation for first two, he only has one inpatient midnight. He transfers to rehab to learn to walk again. 2 weeks later, he gets a bill of $15,000. Medicare denies the rehab stay because he did not meet the 3 midnight inpatient rule. The hospital never told him the distinction mattered. I have a patient who come in with chest pain and fluid around the lungs. 4 nights in a hospital bed, a full care team, a specialist. He thought he was admitted. When he was discharged and needed rehab, he was told he had been under observation status the entire time. Medicare Part A did not apply. The rehabilitation bill came to over $22,000. He told me nobody said those words to me once. If someone had just told me, I would have asked them to change it. So you ask on day one. The second they assign you a bed, stop the admitting doctor and ask, am I admitted as an inpatient or am I under observation? If they say observation, you say, then I am requesting my status be reviewed for inpatient admission based on a medical necessity. Be clear on what that accomplish and what it does not. Requesting this review does not guarantee a change in status. You must meet strict clinical criteria, and unlike discharge appeals, Medicare gives you no right to appeal observation status while you are still in the hospital. This conversation is the only lever you have. It forces the doctor to stop relying on hospital default settings and actively justify why your condition does not meet inpatient criteria. If your medical situation genuinely requires that a level of care, this is what gets that decision made. If they still place you under observation and demand your own notice, federal law requires they provide it within 36 hours. The moon does not give you an appeal right because the Medicare does not offer one. What it does is confirm your status in writing. That is your signal to push your doctor harder to change your classification before you leave or face the full financial cost on your own. 5 traps, 5 responses, the order matters. The admission before you sign anything, you annotate the financial form. The moment they assign you a bed, you ask about your inpatient status. Before any procedure, you invoke the No Surprise Act when the doctor writes your orders. You lock down your medications. If they try to push you out early, you trigger a QIO review. Patient operates as a business and protects its interests accordingly, and you are to do the same.